Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. I'm your editor-in-chief, Jerry Doby, and this afternoon, this evening, depending on what part of the world you're watching from, I have the distinct pleasure, and it's really exciting to me because I'm an old head that's new to some of these techniques that this young lion is using to just destroy the walls and ceilings within the entertainment industry. He's a visionary writer director by the name of Jared Harris. Now, his journey includes a tumultuous childhood marked with chronic illness and personal tragedy, um, to becoming a sought after creative talent, um, which is nothing short of remarkable in this day and age, with all the milk toast people that we have rolling around in this country, whining about everything. This young brother put work clothes on his dreams. And I understand that during this journey, he had to make an excruciating decision whether to be on set or to go and be present, um, in a family situation. Anyway, turned the industry on its ear with his work on Hozier's All Things in music video. It's a haunting, surrealist piece that kind of fused the macabre and comedic elements, into an unforgettable narrative. Really fun. Got a chance to see the trailer, had a ball with it, but Jerry didn't stop there. His latest project, Meat Cleaver, is a fantasy horror comedy, and it's taken the music festival by storm. What I'm understanding, winning best horror film at the LA International Film Shorts in LA International Shorts Festival. Let me get it right because I don't, no stolen valor there, not on this podcast. So, with his distinct storytelling style and that merges entertainment with healing, Jared is quickly becoming a name to watch, um, in both the music and film industry. So, happy to have you here today, man. Let's dive into the inspiration behind your unique projects, the impact your work has had on audiences, and what we can expect from you next. I gotta know before we even get into it, do the reflective thing. And from the inside looking out, who the heck is Jared Asher Harris?
Um, well, I've never gotten that question in my entire life. That's a really good question.
Uh,
I suppose if I were to take the easiest, not easiest, but the most tried and true response, I suppose I am the result of whatever genetic components are within me. I'm the result of a very interesting, unconventional, yet just not off-putting or down or destroying enough life path that resulted in this kind of, I guess, flair for outside the box and wanting to entertain others. I think also someone who really, because of whatever life experiences I've been through, someone who really champions authenticity and being very true and saying what you mean, not in a abrasive, aggressive way, but in a true and genuine way. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what separates uh, great artists from the not so great is that truth. Because it's hard to, that never goes out of style if you're just being yourself.
I gotta just pop in here and say that it's just more damn fun to be abrasive with the truth when you and to just really dig it in there. Like I said, I'm a Gemini, there's 36 of me, so several of them are vicious. And so when I get my opportunity to dig in, I do not. And at 61, I'm not. It's just too late for me to pass up any of those. But you're a nice person, and I'm really glad to know you. And I love the philosophy of being able to say, hey, we could tell the truth without really dogging anybody out, burning, anyone's house down. And I respect that. And I really do.
And not even that I wouldn't, I mean, if I in a parallel universe, I wouldn't want to do that. It's more, I think the most, sometimes at least for someone like me and based on what I've experienced so far in life, that seems to be the most effective. If I was someone else, maybe that person gets more across by being that way. But for me, so I'm sure for someone like yourself, knocking down that door gets the message across. You know what I mean?
I'm just old and crass. That's all it is. They call me Grumpy Grampy for a reason. I don't know, but I have been jaded by five, six children and 15 grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, bro. So I have to say things as clearly and concisely with as much emphasis as possible
Right.
to a lot of people sometimes while
Right.
there's madhouse going on
I can't
around
even imagine.
I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. I promise you. I promise
Wow.
you. So your journey to becoming a filmmaker, is has been full of personal challenges. Um, do you want to talk about how your past kind of helped shape the stories that you tell today?
Sure. And this, as I told you when we were talking before we started recording, or maybe it was when we started recording, I'm new to all of this still. And in doing so, I feel like doing these kind of conversations, it is creating kind of a footprint that lives forever. Right? So I'm being careful about how much I really want to say and make my identity, not because I'm embarrassed of anything, but make my identity based upon this, like soapbox, so to speak, or whatever. But I
Right.
think I was doing what happened was I was doing a little live Instagram thing with an artist I'd collaborated with at one point, and in which I kind of disclosed some stuff and just in giving some people who were commenting like feedback or advice for starting out artists. And the response to that seemed to be very positive. And so for that reason, I've felt that it's good to share some of these backstory stuff because people like yourself even find it interesting. But that's the one thing I'm trying to find is how much I make that my identity. So if I go off at any point too much on this tangent, let me know.
I'm a
Um,
good moderator.
okay, cool. But in terms of the way beginning, when I was, uh, I'll pick and choose. But I was certain things in events in life, whatever. I was a very depressed child. Um, Probably in hindsight, put on a lot of medication stuff that now they probably know much better not to put children on. I was misdiagnosed with something, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was already kind of a little different kind of a kid. On top of that, as I've discovered now in adult life and through my own pursuits, I was also plagued with a number of kind of chronic illnesses. Some stuff that can be fixed, some stuff that's just part of my how I'm built. Hopefully, breakthroughs in science fix that, but it's we'll see. When I was really young, I had this kind of confidence, a little bit at least, in elementary school and what have you, to like be like I guess some leadership type tendencies. I remember writing scripts like on my parents' computer, and I print them out. And I remember even convincing, again, we're all 7 or 8 years old, convincing other parents to drop their kids off early at school to practice for a film that would never get made because we're fucking we were 7 or 8 years old, but still like everyone was like almost like role playing in on it. And so looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I did have that. But along the path of life, and what happens, I kind of lost a little bit of that edge, and I kind of became a bit more, introverted, a bit more, in the post-production editing, VFX type, helping out someone else's dreams come true, being the person who helps someone else. And that went on for many years. I even went to school, with an emphasis on editing, and graduated from that school with an emphasis on editing. Got a desk job, which I was doing working as a development like type like what you call it, I guess the name whatever the creative coordinator for developing unscripted like a television at this like a mega like production company like one of those things that's like an international kind of name that like has a lot of. So point is was doing that. I'm at my standing desk, right, and I'm working with my my little my polo shirt and my glasses and doing my thing, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what the fuck?
Right.
Like what happened? Like there was a moment in there, like talking about when I was young and like the kids and like showing up early to class and stuff. I was supposed to be a director. How did I let this all and this some I was fortunate enough that a lot of people have this way later in life. And also a lot of people then don't have, the because of their life circumstances, don't have the opportunity to pursue this. But I had this realization, and I almost quit my job almost that day.
Mm,
I
mm.
went to some friends at the time were starting and had already started this little production company.
Hmm.
That's gone to do great things. But at the time they're just kind of getting the ball rolling. They had a couple directors, and I said, I want to be a director. And they're like, well, that's probably not going to happen because you don't really have much directing or any directing on your reel. You've never directed anything. How are we going to do that? I'm like, okay, well, okay. Because of my post-production background, I was like, well, do you have someone doing like lyric videos and like, animation stuff, special effects? Do you have that in-house? And they're like, well, like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I'll start there. So I was doing lyric videos. And
Okay.
then next thing you know, I was working with an artist on a lyric video, and I asked the production company to ask the label, hey, can we ask them if we can put the artist in the lyric video? I'm like,
Mm.
oh, well, that's kind of weird, but okay. So next thing I had using my whatever, I got a video now with an artist with a major label. It's a lyric video. Then, then I did two like that, where the artist was again in the lyric video. Um, and then I think it was right before like the holidays or something. And there's an electronic artist. His name's Weethan.
Mm.
I don't know. None of this is like I can't. It's not like any of this is confidential. I don't think. But they were doing a music video for one of his songs. Not my production company that I was with at the time, but just some production company, some director. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if someone dropped dead. I don't know if there was an explosion. I don't know if there was creative differences. Somehow this music video fell apart.
Mm.
And the production company gets a phone call at the last minute, like, "Hey, we just have this. Blah, blah, blah. We have this. We need to shoot it ASAP. We need a new concept, a new director. Is anyone available?" And the executive producer at the time, his name's Austin Barbera, he said, like, well, I remember being at the office when this happened. He's like, well, our director Jared is available to.
Oh, now you're a director. All right. All
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, nice. Like, when did that happen? Well, but that's so I guess between what I wrote being very, I was very precise, but broken down to the time codes of the song, between that and the two videos I had prior, which were, while not full on music videos, were major labels, and the artists were in the video, and the comments were saying, oh, on the video, we're like, oh, I like this, or this is cute, and the label was very pleased with it. I guess that gave me just, and the backing of the production company, knowing that there's a company behind me, gave the label, I guess, enough comfort to let me do it. So and so my first time really, really directing was actually kind of my first actual real music video. Of
Wow.
course, I would be lying if I said I wasn't ever on, like, when I was in high school and stuff, filming stuff like that. But in like film school, even I like hardly took any. I took like one man to a production class. I was very not into that scene. I didn't take any screenwriting classes. I didn't take any whatever. I was kind of just folk with my little cubby doing my editing. And
Mm.
I don't think I was on a single like actual set for any film at my school. And I was on like two sets when I was back home visiting for some friends. So I was
Wow.
very, so I went a little off track, but it's kind of been a snowball ever since. And I found that without me knowing it, a lot of the stuff that directors do grow up learning or practicing or thinking it was all in there. I just was like in denial of it. My parent, yeah,
You weren't, there's that moment. What do they call that when the light switch goes
epiphany.
on? An epiphany, you know, or a benchmark moment, to put it in long form, a benchmark moment where you say, you know what? I've already been doing this. I really am good at it. And I just see shit different. And people get excited about it. They're tired of the mundane. And I'm able to take my imaginings and apply those, in my, because I grew up kind of having these mental scenarios. Like I said, Gemini, 36 and me, had to entertain myself somehow, right?
Yes.
So these intricate scenarios that people would go like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, right.
And that's how you pulled off the description, because when I'm like a surgical ballet almost. I'm
Right.
going, what
Well,
the heck?
just like you were just saying about like I don't know the details of your like growing up and stuff, but from what you're alluding to, whether it was just you had this inside of you or like life circumstances made it that way, you you were in a position to do a lot of daydreaming, if you will. I
Mm,
think when with all the issues I had, all the times in doctors' waiting rooms, uh,
mm,
even in like therapist, psychiatrist waiting rooms or school counselor waiting. There's a lot, and also I was undiagnosed ADHD, which is since like better, but at the time, I just in hindsight, I don't know if this is a universal experience, but I remember growing up being like bored all the time. Do you remember this too? Okay, okay, cool.
yes.
I remember just waiting, like so much waiting. But during all that time, and especially when you have issues and you're at home alone and you're not, being invited and going things. I'm not, having my first kiss by the lake with the fireflies in the air. Nor am I, going out tagging, or nor am I, having some car adventure. There's a lot of time to daydream, and because I was very upset with what life around me was.
Mm.
That gives you a lot of time to think about, So I think, yeah. So anyway, by the time I got to the where it's showtime, I'm like, oh wait, I do have all this stored in me. I grew up, big Tim Burton fan.
Okay. Yeah,
Stories and
yeah.
storytellers about about outsiders, or things, simple stories, but with a skin that tricks you into thinking this isn't something about everyday life.
Mm.
I like stuff like I like realizing like, oh, anywho, um,
So when you were invited then to pitch for Hosier's All Things In, that was the green light to just dig in there and pull your Tim Burton,
yeah,
something magical, you know what
yeah.
I mean? And I mean, how does the main character, and not to be racial, but old films, the black guy dies in the first scene, right? Right. That was just it, right?
Right.
You know,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
there's a black guy. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, if it's a horror film, it's over. Like, yeah, yeah,
Over. It's
yeah.
a wrap. And to have the subject of all things in to pass, to be unalived, so we can have this on TikTok, right? To be unalived in the first like 30, 35 seconds of the video, and then the dance, the how in the world, and I understand, we have creators have, catalogs and catalogs of just off the wall stuff that are in these file folders that could be ignited at any moment. But when you start putting pen to paper, I never know what I'm going to write until I really get emotionally involved. I'm going to, talk with the spirits, commune with the spirits, and like unleash. So, what was it's physical for me. Is it physical for you when it pops off and you go, ah, I got it?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's definitely that, like, it feels almost like I've never experienced I think, what's the word? A knock on wood. I don't, an EKG machine like that,
Mhm.
but almost
Yeah.
feels like I do. There's all of a sudden like that jolt that comes like, oh wait, this is it. That I would say, yeah, you feel it kind of come over you. I would say that even just writing and pitching music videos in general, and you don't get everything you pitch. I pitched countless things,
Right.
in hindsight, there's a lot of death, a lot of things relating to death or people dying or playing on that or dark humor, and again,
Right.
none of this was ever intentional. That's just kind of always been my thing. So I was already in that mindset, just as the artist I am. But coincidentally, and this is crazy, you can't write this stuff, or you can, I guess, if you're really good. I got news.
You've done it.
Yeah, my grandmother, I got news, was I still have, I'm gonna mess this up. Whatever the stage is before it's like, okay, showtime's over.
Stage four. Stage four.
Yeah, it was the one before, like, where it's like there's still a chance here, but it's not looking good. She was diagnosed with cancer, and now this was a very, major person in my life, and she made fast forward, she made a full recovery miraculously.
Yeah.
Um, so I found that out, and I was like shocked. I'd experienced, stuff. I wasn't new to anything like this, but I was new. It hadn't been since directing, since life getting better, it'd been a moment since I'd had something like this happen. So it was definitely like a whoa, like, the potential of losing someone, like, very, important and close to me, who's I consider a hero. Getting that the same time I was getting one of what could be, again, the same way how that with her, it's like, hey, there was a chance. It's like we're just letting you know there's a chance she might die. I was also being told, hey, just so you know, there's a chance you might be directing a Hozier music video. Getting word that there's both of these things that are equally on the horizon, so to
Mhm.
speak. How, like, in the dual, I think that word's used a lot, but the duality of life, the whatever. So I don't think I was conscious of this at the time, where I was like, oh, I know, I'll take that and I'll put it into the idea. But I look in hindsight, if you're gonna look back, I think that's definitely what happened. So, and the song is called All Things End. And in the info I got from Andrew, Hozier is Andrew, Hozier and his team was, it does, plays like a love song. It sounds like a love song or a love ending song. All things end, but like whatever. We don't want that. We want something outside of the box. Have at it.
Mm.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like you said, it seems counterintuitive because, music videos are a marketing tool and and what are you marketing? You're marketing the star, the
Right.
performer. But, it's counterintuitive. It seems like, okay, so we'll have him die within the first 20 seconds and then he's out. Uh, the song's All Things End and there's a line, a weight upon my chest. The last time I felt the weight on my chest, you said we didn't get it right, but love, we did our best.
Mm.
The idea of that and chest and whatever, and like, of course, heart and heartbreak and heart and all that. So I'm thinking, okay, his chest is open, it's surgery. And the lyrics and talking about like, we did our best, whatever, that's like a doctor, giving it their best shot, a surgeon trying to save this life. And then I'm like, okay, then after it feels all real and like whatever, obviously he's singing, so it's already surreal. You're gonna all of a sudden the song's gonna go, and they never said anything like a note about this, but I have the music go out right in the middle, and then all of a sudden you hear the heart monitor and it
Mm.
flatlines, and he's grabbing her arm, which also makes no sense. So all of it's very heightened and surreal. And then he dies. And then I just wrote at the time because I'm not a dancer, so I couldn't say they do a this, they do a this move, or that move. I said, and then it turns into a full-on like ballet production, with vibes of what's the word? Sequence swim,
Sequential.
yeah,
Sequential.
sequence swimming when the women
Mm.
with like the caps on
Oh, the
moving.
synchronized swimmings.
Synchronize. So like it has a little bit of that edge to it, especially when they're like up or above, and like with that meets that. And then so I pitched this idea. Literally, the way I can show you sometime. The pitch, it's the video. Hosier, and for being the biggest artist at the time I'd worked with ever, literally no feedback. I think the only feedback I got was at the end he was going to stand up on the surgery table and perform in this dream sequence, but instead they said, he's already really tall, so he probably shouldn't stand on the table. Other
Mm.
than that,
Yeah.
the, they just went with it, and we did it. And a week later, I was on set shooting. And yeah, sorry if I went a tangent on that, but yeah, it just happened. It kind of fell into place.
No, you had to go into a tangent on that in order to set the, I mean, like this blank masterpiece, and you had to throw the strokes on there until the central theme emerged.
Yeah,
That,
which is all things end, and but the performance kind of shows, but it's beautiful, and so is life. You know.
yeah. So, I mean, all things in, but you know, the journey is a beautiful thing. No matter what you go through, when you think about it, when you have those calm, tranquil moments, feel like this is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm, I'm, and then on a personal level, I can't believe they paid me to do this stuff.
That's how I feel. I feel sometimes I feel like a scammer. Like I'm like because growing up, the reason I didn't want to be directors, I guess for whatever reason, I didn't see value
Mhm.
in this. I'm like this is like I assumed like, and I also thought, just so you know too, just to give you an idea of my how I saw the world of myself, I thought everyone thought like this,
Mm.
which made me actually very sad because I'm like, fuck, life's really hard. Everyone's feeling really bad and sad and have all these aspirations, but everyone's functioning really great. I assumed everyone felt like the same way. So then I later learned, oh no, not everyone thinks of things like this. And this is
Yeah.
something that people actually will pay for you to do. And if you're good at it and you're a nice kind of person to work with, you know how to, I always say to people, you know how to be. That's the end of the sentence. Like just knowing how to be, like whether it's a conversation, professionally, you're doing a aspect of a
Presentation.
job, just knowing how to be, I guess you can get paid for this. So it's funny you say that because yeah, it blows my mind. Yes.
It's wild, and I think my first time realizing that people actually pay attention to what you put out there, I was in a whole another part of the country, and somebody says, "You're the guy who wrote that body parts piece," and I'm going, "Strange that you would bring that
Yeah, yeah.
particular article up," but people do think, and they want to have neurodivergent people like ourselves, you know, to spill our feelings and translate these stories into visions that they couldn't create for themselves, but they can go, That totally makes sense. You
But
know,
when you were young and you were daydreaming, did you imagine though, like, doing radio, doing journalism, teaching, like, or being a figure in the industry? Did you ever imagine that?
no, all I knew was, my reality was I was a military brat, and I
Right,
was too dark for the white kids to play with, and I was
right,
too light skinned for the black kids to play with.
sure, sure.
So words and books became
Yeah,
my friends,
you
and
you you escaped. You,
100%. I had before Star Wars was even thought of to be a movie. I had the entire Star Wars paperback series, all 53 freaking books.
wow.
And I could see, you know, I could I could see the lightsabers. I could see the little air flying cars. I could see what a Wookiee looked like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going, and then to see the movie decades later, I'm going, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like this. You're like, this would be a great movie. Then see, I told you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just said, well, but my question, of course, being an ass, is they're telling the story out of sequence, though. You
Yeah. Oh, but you know what's so funny? You were the only one who knew at the time. Like, no
know,
one.
you don't even tell them how you get to the Empire Striking Back. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah, yeah,
Return of the
yeah.
Jedi. Nobody. Yeah. Anyway, I'm
No,
taking
it's
away
so
your
funny.
time.
No, no, I always wondered that because at the time, like, was I guess people who were in the know, like yourself, were like, wait, why are they starting here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was lost. I'm going. You
This
know,
sure, this sure is a long intro to go back to the flashback, but at the beginning, the next thing you know, it's been a 2 hour movie. You're like, what the hell?
but,
You know?
but I didn't know the business at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
How that was structured, and like, okay, we're gonna set him up. This is a reason to go. I guess I should have taken, the who shot JR and Bobby not actually dying,
Right,
on Dallas and the shower scene. Like, no, Brown was dead. He was unalived
right.
on the film. How's he back next season? Oh, it was just a little
Yeah, 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 yeah.
little trickeration. I'm like, okay,
Right.
not cool, not cool. So no reaction from Hozier when he first saw it, other than, well, maybe not having stand up on the surgical table.
Yeah, I got word something like along the lines of he loves it. We'll be back soon. Like through a third party. Like I wasn't in direct contact at this point. And I was
Mhm.
like, whoa. And
Mm.
then next thing you know, we're doing
Mhm.
it.
We talked about, kind of graced over it, the receptions from the audience of, your visions, and mixing horror with comedy. Um, how do you were you expecting the emotional connections that people are having with the projects? Were you like, I know it's going to connect, or you just, was it an intrinsic thing to get it out and complete it
Yeah.
and let the chips fall where they may?
It's fun, and I don't know if this is you asked. These are all just brilliant questions because I'm really like, oh wow, like I've been in therapy for a long time, so it's like you think I'd be pretty, immediately, but still I'm like, oh, that's a good question. Because on one hand, in order to wake up, I guess every day in the morning and pursue this, I have to, on some level, think I should be doing this. I have good ideas and people will like them. But it's funny. It's more I'm just thinking about it's very like it's hard to explain. I get very tunnel vision in a way where I'm like, I'm thinking about, okay, I'm writing this. I want to really impress the people who are going to be reading this treatment. And I want them to be like, whoa, I didn't expect that. I'm not even thinking yet about like I'm just being true to myself and what I think is like cool. And when I was making it, and I showed, and, of course, the people on the label seeing it, or a friend I lived with, I'm like, hey, take a look at this, I know it's against the rules, but I couldn't help myself. And being like, whoa, like this is something different. I did no, I don't. I was not like, oh, I can't wait for people to see this because they're gonna feel the emotional whatever, and they're gonna realize that it kind of just happens. And I know that's probably not the best answer to give in the sake of my career because I want to make it, you want to make it seem like everything's so intentional and so, oh no, I knew this would connect with people and I knew this would cause like whatever. It's more that I think it's good. And if it's good, like, the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Mhm.
So so I just try to make the best product. It,
You know, go ahead.
and it's not until I analyze in hindsight in a conversation like this, even like what I told you before we even started talking and what you'd known about, like, even with my grandmother and everything like that. At the time, I'm not like, oh yes, I'm writing this because my it's not until I look back that I'm like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Mm,
It kind of just happens.
mm. I had my first therapy session yesterday with the
Oh, congratulations.
a brand new therapist from the VA, right? So I'm a retired combat vet,
Yeah.
and I'm like I'm I don't know 2013 retired, so I'm a few years removed from it, but I'm just thinking um some of the similes here between my writing, your writing that turns into visual presentations and art, and people in the comments going, yo, need more of this, need more of that. And does that wipe away any imposter syndrome that you might have had at one point?
Yes. In fact, I'll go as far as to say, if you talked to me a week ago, maybe it would be different. Even after the Hozier video and everything, still there's this feeling, at the time I hadn't directed a narrative film yet, nor had I wrote a narrative film yet. I'd never written actually much of anything other than school papers and,
Mm,
just ideas down. I've never
mm,
fancied myself a writer. In fact, I thought I was, in fact, one of the things I like, came to when I was younger, I was convinced I was like, whatever the see this is so funny ironic whatever the equivalent of being illiterate would be verbally, whatever that would be, I was convinced I really was like I had a disability in terms of how I
mm,
communicated. I thought it was like I couldn't communicate myself effectively, so I never considered myself a writer or anything like that, but I wrote this short film, did this thing, and the Hosier thing and all these kind of things are starting to show me, oh wait, I can do this. And then a week ago, Meat
mm,
Cleaver, which was my first short film, went public. It was put out by Crypt TV.
mm,
And the people, the insane response so far, and just a week for a short film, is unbelievable. With people saying, "This is hilarious. This is the best thing I've seen in a while. This is so well written." Like, not even, and this is I'm someone from a very technical background, or so
mm,
I thought. So I thought it would be more like, "Oh, the look of this." And there are comments like that saying, "Oh, it's beautiful, whatever." But a lot of it's on, "This is funny. This is interesting. I didn't know where this was going to go. I want 4 seasons of this."
mm.
That, for some reason, even though like the Hosier thing is way more and way more views, way more comments, something about this, maybe because it's 100% self-generated, a song wasn't the kickoff point. I was like, oh wow, like I guess that answers that right there. Now,
Yeah.
hopefully, it's not beginner's luck. I don't think it is because I'm a little too, uh, I guess, hyper aware of. Already people said you should make a second Meat Cleaver. I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. I gotta make sure, you gotta figure out first what people liked about the first one, because it might not even be the story itself. It might just be the vibe.
Mm.
So in that case, I should just make something else with that. But you know what I'm saying? So I'm very cautious. Sorry, rambling.
No,
Point
you're
is,
not rambling. Keep going.
point is that whole experience was very, and it's still going. Like, this is in real time now. Comments are still appearing. Which, again, just came out a week ago. I'm like, oh wow, I guess I have whatever that thing is you're supposed to have or be told you have, so you can then pursue directing or filmmaking or writing or being someone who tells stories. I have that.
Hmm.
And this isn't a friend or a music video where no matter how maybe the video was terrible, people who are fans of the music are going to love it regardless. You know, uh, this was a true test. I made something that was authentically me, that wasn't mimicking anyone, at least intentionally. I'm always gonna have a bit of Tim Burton in me, that I can't help it.
Okay.
But other than that, and people vibe with it. And I think being validated in being so myself, even down to the characters. And I actually want to tell you about one of the characters in particular, because I thought you, specifically as both a person and as a writer and artist, that professional that you are, you would find this in particular fascinating. But anyway, uh, I've been received so positively. I'm flying in a month to, well, no, less than a month, to Film Quest, which is one of the biggest industry, biggest industry, genre festivals
Right.
in the industry. And if you told me I was going there, I wouldn't believe you. Now I believe it, I think.
Mm.
And so, which is really like, so now I'm excited because I'm like, okay, if you guys thought, well, this was cool before, just you wait, because now I'm actually thinking that this is, now I actually know I should go forward with this. Now I can go full throttle, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, they just turned me loose.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like watch out. Like that's gonna fucking, I was gonna say not to scare anyone, but like I could fucking scare anybody.
Right. You know, I was thinking, and I don't know why this Marilyn Monroe scene popped into my head. They like me. They really like me.
Yes, yes, yes.
And you go, oh yeah, I got more.
Yeah,
What? You're in for it. But at the same time, so not only the popular demand, the comments from the people, the end user, the consumer that's going, I found one of my people. I found part of my tribe. Make more, right? Like the anime crowd. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
they have their global and your ability to blend the horror with the comedy, you know, and only in America will we see this as like an opposite kind of thing, where, Greek tragedy was actually the comedy and the comedy
Right,
was actually the horror film,
right, right.
basically the thriller. And you go, yeah. And now we have, the horror comedy. How did that become a genre?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it fully. And yeah, it's a funny thing about Meat Cleaver too. I wouldn't even necessarily call it horror, but everyone else did, so I kind of went along with it. It was put because people at film festivals they would slot it in the horror block, but they put it last as a nice thing to leave off on because you'd be watching a film of someone like getting their guts spilled out and their mom's
Yeah,
crying over it. So
yeah,
so like and walking out of a theater with that as the end note is always the best. So I guess programmers would put it at the end. And then it won specifically best horror film at the LA festival. And I was like, well, I guess it's a horror film.
right.
So of course there's like, stuff like Shaun of the Dead, like zombie, like dark, like or like even like Evil Dead, Sam Raimi, like that
Right.
kind of like comedy horror. And there's like definitely that kind of like art-tastic, like Tim Burton Beetlejuice type, I guess, wit and comedy
Yeah,
stuff too.
yeah.
But I think there's also this in between realm, which I'm sure people are already tapping into that I must not be unaware of, but a place where I'm hoping to go as well, where it has all that artistry and like beauty of like a painting, like a Tim Burton thing or like a Wes Anderson thing,
Mm,
but yet the crudeness, realism, and a graphic nature of a horror film. It's hard to. It's like the con. I was saying another talk to someone else about this stuff. I was saying I think the cool thing and why anything is cool ever usually it's like the contrast of it all, right? Like just contrast.
right.
The best stories or things in life are just the contrast of it all. Just even talking about someone like a Hozier, this big, tall, very presence with this powerful voice
Mm,
who writes these very, introspective, soft, and poetic art, and is so sweet and friendly and not boastful, So like the contrast. So I think for me, I've always been in pursuit, and I grew up in a very pretty place with a
mm,
lot of very pretty people
mm,
and very happy people, or at least, you never know what's behind closed doors, but seemingly happy people. And
mm,
then feeling, there's always some self whatever, not just physically, but feeling so internally and physically like ugly inside and being
mm,
amongst this crowd.
mm,
Perhaps that's a part of it, or things that were going on in my life behind the scenes, or things that were like going horribly wrong while like, the beautiful suburbs went on.
mm,
That kind of there's something I think about that contrast and that duality of life. So I think it's only natural that things like horror comedy, especially as we start burning the very ends of the oil, if you will, in terms of how far we can push a certain thing. Like we've taken horror so far, we're really like trying to get everything we can of it. We've taken comedy so far. Now it's time to remix and combine and redo and
yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Where can you go? What challenges are there
yeah,
left?
yeah.
And, you know, when you talk to, I don't want to say this. How do I say this without being fucking? It's my show.
You can say anything. No,
When
you
you
can't
talk to,
defend me.
when you talk to, no, I wouldn't put it on you. When you talk to freakish people, people who think freakishly, and well, for me, it's the turning of a phrase, it's the prose inside the editorial. How do I flip it and make somebody go, what the hell? How did he even, you know, or
Yeah.
you during a conversation, I might say something stupid and just to get a reaction, but I'm painting this picture all at the same time.
I vibe with that so hard, just so you know. Go on. But
Oh,
we
go
are, I
ahead.
get
You
you. Yeah,
vibing with me? You with me?
I get you.
Okay. So, it's playtime. For me, I don't depend on it as a living, but I depend on it as a survival skill, a continual healing thing, so that the ghosts of the past aren't overwhelming me on a day-to-day basis. Having the ability, the honor to be trusted with other people's stories, and I get to translate that, for an audience of around 4 million and go, please don't blow it. It's my new X Games, my new adrenaline.
Yeah.
So I can imagine how you on a larger scale, you've got jury selections at film festivals and congratulations on, the Oscar to make Oscar eligible
The festivals
festivals.
were Oscar qualifying festivals.
Oscar qualifying. Yeah, see, I don't I don't
I
even
don't even understand the whole thing. I'm not even kidding. It doesn't even, yeah.
I think I've done maybe 10 interviews or conversations from inside the film side. So I get tongue tied trying to get
Right,
the business, the colloquialisms from that part of the
right.
industry correct.
I think the people even inside it though don't fucking understand what's going on. Especially right now, it's so crazy. Like, no, like who knows? Like, it's whatever. Like, you know.
So you were independent. So were were you in production when the writers and all that when the strike was going on?
So I was doing music videos, and
Mm,
I was continuing on site, lyric video stuff like that. And then the strike happened, and so everything froze.
mm,
I'd also, right before the Hozier video, I had decided to go off on my own. I had left the production company that I'd started with, that was right before the Hozier video. And I did that. And I had all this momentum and confidence from the Hozier thing, but all of a sudden the industry shut down. And
mm,
through the years, people have been telling me, like, Jared, you're never going to be able to direct films from just music videos. You're going to have to demonstrate you can write and direct or just direct narrative. So I was like, okay, well, if there was ever a time to do it, I'm feeling pretty confident. Also, I had to have some surgery done too. So I was recovering. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have some downtime. The industry's frozen anyway. People are gonna be available and wanting to work on stuff. If there was a time to do a short film, I think it would be now. And I
mm.
guess I wasn't the only one with that idea because apparently it was a record-breaking year for film festival. So I guess everyone had the same idea. So I was not being unique in this epiphany, but that was kind of all the stars kind of aligned, and I wrote this.
Mm.
And next thing you know, a cinematographer that I worked with on a music video I had done recommended me to this producer, Katie Ann Moy, and we hit it off. And she doesn't just take anything on. She said she really liked the script. So she was down. I'm like, really? You're down? She's like, I'm down. Uh, uh, and then was kind of just the next thing you know, like, every favor I could get, every anything I had like saved up or anything, I was like, I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna gamble here. I'm gonna make something cool because I have to. I have to at some point. Why not now?
Right, right.
There wasn't an alternative. Like, what else would I do? You know what I mean? If I'm gonna
Mm,
stay in this industry, based on what was happening in the industry, I can stay at home and do nothing.
right.
I know. I think I'll make a short film.
You were talking about and I kind of lost it like 15 minutes ago, but you had mentioned something about duality. And we were talking about the weight of the audience saying, yeah, good stuff, and the industry saying good stuff, and which one is maybe more helpful, more healthy for the creative. And that's where I was going to go. And I was going,
Yeah.
and I wanted to say something slick, like, yeah, the audience is calisthenics and the industry is heavy weights and calisthenics lives lasts longer. And because we were talking about the imposter syndrome as well. So I'm going, how can I work that in? I wanted to say something clever. Here I am at 61, 15 minutes later, popping something out that has nothing to do with the trajectory of the conversation at the
No,
moment.
no, no, but go ahead. No, I want to, yeah.
Oh no, no. I'm just clowning, bro. I'm really having a great time with you. I just like,
But on that note though, I've been thinking about that too. Like not sad part, the challenging part is perhaps it's the fact I don't come from a family of entertainers or artists.
mhm.
Very like, in a lot of ways like blue collar mindset in terms of having a business or doing a service and you do this for the person. While as zany or eccentric or I really it's hard for me to fully gauge like how I come off. I try to be authentic. I try to be I try not to play. I can't help. Like I've been told I come off a little, I guess directory or whatever, eccentric, whatever, artisty. But at the end of the day, though, it's really important to me actually the business and commercial aspect of what I do too. I
Mhm.
think I would not be just satisfied being traveling. Well, also the other reason I have to do this and think about this is because of my issues.
Mhm.
I need to be able to make this lucrative, so I can fund my essentially my lifestyle, which involves self-preservation.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's a big part of it too. That's why I can't just be like, even though I have these wacky ideas, I can't just be like some like artist at some art gallery living out in my van, whatever. Like I could not, like literally, I physically could not do that. So it's funny. I want to make this stuff, but at the same time, it's very important to me finding that balance. I want the industry to be happy too. I
Mhm.
want them to give me and be in the business aspect, in the industrious side of things, see the value as well as the artistic. So that is a very interesting rope to walk that you're talking about. No, I think that is so. Forget the trajectory of the conversation. That's a very real thing.
Speaking of business, though, as you elevated, and I understand Hozier was your first, but that was part of a machine thing. Me Cleaver is you, um, and the buck stopping with you in its creation, the delivery, the interpretation, the view from the lens, so to speak, you know, um, depth framing, bro. That's freaking heavy lifting, for people like us who are in freaking therapy and dealing with, baggage and detritus from, whatever else we have experienced. And how do you keep the balance and separate that from the project?
Oh, well, that's really easy because the whole reason I do this stuff is and also here's the other thing too. While I did go like growing up, it's not like it used to be. It's always going to be a part of me. These kinds of things like things like depression, things like which are aside from the chronic physical, physiological, I don't know the right word is, ailments.
I got you.
But it's not like it was. So thank God for that. When I was younger, I'd be like crying every day. You know what I mean? It would be like it was awful. But
Mhm.
now, and the cool thing about doing this is even with what's left over, it all melts away when I'm doing this. It's not something I need to keep out because I guess it becomes one with me, or I take the best parts of it, I strip it for parts and put it into the work, you know? But I forget all about it. A lot of my physical stuff too. It's still there. If I'm being honest, yeah, it's still there. But I don't think about it as much. I don't feel as horrible. I don't
Mhm.
notice that I'm this or that, or feeling foggy or achy, or like my face or hands are swelling. I'm like not, you know what I mean? I'm able to because I'm so focused on and excited about what we're making.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing that makes it so, I guess, on one hand, I work hard, but also it's like I have to because it gives me that opportunity again to escape. And because of that, I couldn't imagine ever running out of stamina for doing it.
Mhm.
Because no matter how terrible it gets, being in that, to use an analogy, you would, the foxhole, if you will,
Right.
I feel way safer and way more comfortable in my skin and living my life in the foxhole than I do walking down the street. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I fucking just said this to my therapist yesterday. I'm like, that's what it is. I don't like to be in public. I really don't. This is as public as I get. So
right.
They don't see me at events and things like that. These are my conversations, and it's fun. Then when I get to dig into the words, that's where I live. But it's safer, you know, with what, bro. How do you're like are you my twin or something? You have
I
pretty
think
curly
no,
hair and the
well,
ability
I
to
gotta
grow a beard.
like yeah, like I gotta say, I really, just so you know, I really like I was told that you'd want to talk to me and that you were interested in like my story and everything, and I don't think it's like I wouldn't say it's rare, but I think there's a certain subtype of people that transcends logistical, locational, geographical, and racial lines of people who experience what it is to be living a life that is, and everyone experiences different levels of this, but is nothing like what was described that you should be experiencing.
Yeah, yeah.
Life is not looking like it, and it's like, hello, is anyone here? And I think it creates a very, when that happens, I think the mind, this is not scientific, nor is it like, spiritual, whatever, this is just, I think in some ways we adapt
Hmm.
and become, I guess, creative in how we approach things as a result,
Hmm.
because doing it the version A would not work for us. And
Right.
I think so. But there's a lot of struggle in that. It's hard when you can't, you only person you can depend on for figuring out solutions sometimes is like looking inward. You know what I mean? And it creates a very like kind of uh forgot the word people use for like neurodivergency and stuff online. They say like spicy. It
Mm.
creates a very spicy kind of mindset, a very like you're saying, like even like knocking on the walls, being abrasive, like saying things people would be like, "Whoa, like what are you saying there?" It creates a hunger for that and a pride in being this kind of alternate way of being. So I think whenever someone see each other and out and about, it's like, oh, okay, there's other people like they're out
Yeah,
there like me. Yeah,
yeah. I feel like I'm, just sitting with somebody in my tribe on the fishing bank and
like
talking
good.
about what we do on a day, just daily life. You just happen to be your vision is beautiful
Yeah.
on the screen.
Thank
You
you.
know? And I enjoy it. And I'm not a horror kind of guy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But I was you know, I always found Jack Palance as Dracula to be funny as hell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, the horror master himself, Vincent Price. I don't care how serious he was trying to be. You know?
That's how well, that's the whole thing. Maybe it's because I get scared when I talk like this. I'm painting this idea that I'm so fucked up inside, like I'm hiding it, like I'm some crazy person. Like, just so you know, there's like an evil, it's not like that. But the way I see it is, even growing up, there's a lot of sadness and crying and very real, authentic locked away in my room, literally. Even in college, there was a year where I had an apartment by myself. I would not leave unless it was to get water or go to class. I mean, not water, food or water or go to class. And people would
Understand?
literally go on my door and knock on the door, like, Jared, I wouldn't come out. Like, you know what I mean? Having experiences like that, by the time I get to the driver's seat and it's time to make stuff, I don't want to make like real like drama, like a father and son arguing about
Right.
whatever. I don't want to watch someone going through horrible withdrawals in a very real, grounded way, or like focusing on the tragedy and the torture that is life.
Right.
I have enough of that like on the daily in my mind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny to say even Edgar Allan Poe. When I was in college, I was living above where he was born. Like I was living in the
Wow.
above, and I remember crossing that statue every day of him with the raven
The
and being like
Raven.
wow, what a mind. But it's like it's so funny. I don't know if people buy into that stuff anymore. Like people today, if you're just strictly serious and strictly whatever, you like get called corny. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like like it's like
Yeah.
I think as we're evolving in a way that our taste now hungers for yes, exploring darkness, but in a nuanced and more sometimes more dialogue encouraging way. Like,
Mm.
instead of just being like, oh, the world's evil, you get killed. It's
Mm.
like, oh, what leads, what kind of like, deadly sins, if you will lead to one's death. I think been a resurgence of the kind of love for that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, it's wild that people are having these flashes of realization like I'm freaking mortal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fantasies of extending their life or how can we maneuver
Yeah.
around. I'm the guy who wants to be strapped to the table under the pendulum. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want to hear the swoosh and
Yeah.
I want to see it coming closer and closer. And I'm like, that's some weird shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
But I don't want to live forever. And I don't want to be devoid of anything that makes me nervous, you know, to be able to celebrate the moments, you know? Um, yeah, anyway.
do you attribute that at all to your military background?
I
In
promise
terms of
there
the
was
take charge and don't be afraid and
well, there was a day, the first time that I crossed over, you know what I mean? Um, and where people were intentionally trying to send me on my way. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I came to grips with my mortality and I said, it's done in like 30 seconds. I know this is happening. And
wow.
some weird shit happened and
Wow.
I'm here.
Wow.
But so for me, yes, part of it is the reality of the end and looking the creator eye to eye and say, yeah, I'm on my way, right? Here I come.
Right.
And somebody sending me back and saying, no, you're not done.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? I'm all warm and fuzzy now. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so I look at it, them sending me back as a comedy.
Yeah. Well, that's I took a class on comedy theory, one of the classes that was very interesting in like school and psychology that, and, comedy, this is pretty common knowledge, whatever. Laughter is very close to pain. This is a
Yes.
known thing. It's a whatever. And even some theories of why comedy works, it's your brain actually almost getting a little microdose of pain because something did not meet your expectations. You
Mm,
thought something was going to come out one way, but
mm,
you could have never expected that outcome. That's why, if you see a joke coming, it's not funny. The whole
right.
idea is the surprise, the shock. And it's funny how someone like yourself, you said you see it more as a comedy, someone who came very close to some of the scariest of life that is, and like to be livid and then have this feeling, you're like, that's pretty funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is that it's the human mind and condition is no, yeah, pun, like just mind blowing.
Literally though.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, bro. Meat Cleaver. When you sat and watched for the first time the final product, tell me what you went through. If you
So
can.
here's the, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying if you can. Tell me what you went through.
So with my so here's the problem. So not well problem I guess in some ways or strengths. Other people tell me it's an incredible strength to have. But my background was in editing and in post
Mm,
production
mhm,
and directing. In terms of getting validation about that, that's been lovely, whatever. But where I guess you could say like a more like stereotypical artist ego comes in. When it comes to editing, I'll edit I think about this way. I'll edit circles around anyone. I'm
mm,
a damn good editor.
mm,
But when also you're an editor, you're so in it
mhm,
and I purposely detached myself and pretended as if I didn't direct it, but at the same time had the sense of humor that I have. It's
mhm,
because otherwise you want to keep everything in, even stuff that's not necessary.
mhm,
Still, I wonder if it's too long. You know what I'm saying? Like, but see, that's the problem. I'm so perfectionist and I'm so conscientious of the edit and stuff that by the time I'm watching the final cut, I'm so hyper aware of every little whatever that it feels a lot of ways like looking at a textured wall of like a white wall that just has texture on it, and you're familiar with all the texture, but there's nothing surprising, nothing making you laugh. So I'm at the end of it, I'm like, is this even funny? Is this even
mm,
enjoyable? Is this boring? Are people gonna be like, you just wasted my time?
mm,
That's the trippy thing. I stayed true though to what the original intent was and vibe. And I'm like, well, that's all I can do and make it the best I can make it.
mm.
And
I,
apparently I should give myself more credit because people really fucking love it.
yeah, because you're not responding to it so well, but the audience is,
Yeah.
meekly regained traction online with the clips going viral. And what is that? Viral's like what, 1 million views or 100,000
I was
views?
getting up there.
It, it's it's
For
massive.
a short film, at least, it's like, what the
Mhm.
hell? Yeah.
But I'm just talking about just the clips.
That's what I'm
With
saying. But for clips of a
oh,
short film, like again, it's a
okay.
short film
Hmm.
with a no, technically, a no-name director. No one in the cast is an A-list, being a making appearance. There's no sponsored or there was nothing topical or like a hot button issue being explored. For something like that, I feel like to get such attention, I was like, okay, cool. Like I am, 'cause it's kind of a risk, like you without making something with a built-in audience, so to speak,
Mm,
something that has to find an audience versus already knowing this is for these people.
mm.
And it turns out it kind of crosses a lot of demographical, is that even a word?
Yes.
Demographical,
Yeah.
demographical.
Today
Okay,
it is, at least.
yeah, okay, demographical lines. It seems to be enjoyed by a myriad of different types of content viewers. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, people were seeming to dig just from the clips alone, and that was very rewarding.
Yeah. I kind of looked at it, I'm glancing, I'm going, this is crossing generational lines,
Yeah.
geopolitical.
And there's like jokes I took out that were even more like very dry, old school like jokes or references to pop culture, but I was like,
Mm,
I don't want it to come off too like I think whatever of myself. So I took that stuff out and tried to make it as palatable for anyone as possible. But it's
mhm.
funny you pick up on that generational thing. Yeah, there is a bit of a I was hoping it would have a bit of timelessness to it.
Yes.
Not like it feels like it came from a time before, but nor does it feel like very current. I want to just feel like it just exists in a place.
It just belongs all the time. It's natural, like in a naturally existing state. It's just a naturally existing state. It is what it freaking is. You know what I mean? And I love that. Really enjoyed it. You know, the parts that I saw, and I didn't take have time to take advantage of getting the full screener, but mm, I certainly want to now.
I
Um,
promise you, based on our conversation so far, I think you'll really enjoy it. It's on YouTube. I
okay,
think you'll really actually enjoy it.
I love it, man.
I
We know how you're keeping it together. Same way I'm freaking keeping it together. We're talking to somebody. You know, um, I feel one of the hardest parts for men or males, and I'm not into the political, all that.
I got you.
I'm too old for that.
Right, right.
Okay, all right. And creatives of all walks, the mental health and taking accountability for one's mental health and not blaming the outside world for your state of mental health, and giving the world the power. But I've found that it's a more sensitive issue with people who actually deliver a product on a grander scale. You know, mine is a trickle in audience. You know, you've got a theater with 1,500 to 2,000 people going.
Working on it, working on it.
Well, you know what I mean. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean. When you talk about, I feel like, going through film festivals, and I've never been to one. Maybe that's why, Well, I did go to South by Southwest once, and and there were a lot of people, in the convention center, and I'm going. So I was just figuring and assuming wrongly,
Yes, yeah.
made an ass out of myself.
No,
But
no, no. There are a lot of people are seeing it though, especially now it's online. But yes, yes,
okay,
yes.
but having that, response and being able to take in stride the acceptance or the critique and not allowing them to take the power away from you and your creativity, not throw up roadblocks, the mental creative roadblocks. You know, it's a beautiful thing. So I was just, that was kind of my way of saluting you
Oh,
for the intestinal fortitude to keep working even with the challenges, doubting yourself, the depression, the physical challenges as well. You know, it's a bitch when you got to go through a procedure or you got to have a surgery and it's coming up, and and not having it is not just about changing your quality of life, but whether you have it.
yeah.
I mean, these are heavy weights, you know, but being mentally nimble enough and agile to navigate that maze, and wise enough men who don't ask for assistance, which is where I started at a long time ago, knowing it's time to ask for help and not just go to say, I'm getting help, but have the courage and the intestinal fortitude to dig into yourself and be honest.
Yeah.
It may cause you to cry, but
Yeah.
therapists can't tell nobody.
Right. Yeah. No one's gonna know. And it definitely gets worse and got worse before it gets better.
Mm,
But if you can like harness that inside of you, if someone's super into the idea of, no, I want to be a powerful person, I want to be strong, I don't need therapy. Here's the thing. If you go through it, you'll be even stronger than you were. You can actually harness all these things that you were ashamed of and make it a superpower.
mm,
That's like without any of that flavor, without any of that, all that crap that I went through and continue to in some ways, I wouldn't be making this.
mm,
You don't just get this, in my opinion, at least, just by oh, like it's pulling from a very particular perspective on life.
mm,
So it doesn't have to just be something you shove down. You can actually take it up and make yourself better than you would be without it.
mm,
Find the value in it. You don't want to get rid of it because it'll always be there. Don't therapy won't get rid of anything. It allows you to empower yourself from it.
mm. I got to ask you something since you're a director thrown into the lion's den. Um, how do you know? And is it the purpose of a director's cut? Because you never know when one more stroke of paint is going to ruin the masterpiece. I've always wanted to ask Matisse, how did that the studio was
Yeah.
done, and you needed to back off and it was there. Or Basquiat when he was, scribbling on napkins and postcards and things like that. How did you know when you'd gotten your message across?
I think in a hopefully not too neurotic way, kind of being constantly aware of you're not alone in a room, making something for yourself. I know a lot of people say that's what you should do. And I think by nature, that's what I do create because I'm just that kind of person. But at the end of the day, you're making something for other people to watch and enjoy. And if you find yourself, if you can just do a little bit of role play with yourself and pretend you're some onlooker
Mm,
watching it for the first time, what are they thinking? Do they really care about that? Are they really going to think that's funny? Are they going to notice that? Are they going to care? Like, are you putting, like, I'm so particular, like the colorist I work with, Emily Bailey, God bless her,
mm,
I'm very, very particular. But there comes a point where it's like, you could do this forever.
mm,
If it's doing what you intended to do in the script or in your original intention, it has that and it looks good. You've done it.
mm, mm,
Stop. I know what you're talking about because even I'll be working with art sometimes, and I'll when I'm prepping for music video, I'll hear like the demo version, right? Like this is a really good song, and maybe it's because the first version I hear, so I get comfortable with it, whatever. But then I hear the final version, I'm
mm,
like, oh, what happened? Like they added all this stuff, and it sounds so like compressed, and it's so like almost like a wall. Before it had so much more dynamic. Like you have to I think being a good artist, the real talent is being able to look at something, even if you made it, and be able to identify if it's good, and if so, what is good about it.
mm,
And then make sure it doesn't have anything else.
mm,
Make sure it has what is good, not to you, but to other people. I'm a big fan of like really pretty colors and visual contrast. At the end of the day, if it was a short film of people just standing around while the shots look beautiful, if no one's feeling anything, it's like, so I got to make sure people are feeling something.
mm,
Um, so yeah, I guess it's knowing not when you're done for you, but when you're done for them, the people who are going to be watching it, if it's enough for them.
mm, mm.
If you read this back and that was coherent and tracks, I will be fucking shocked and impressed with myself. Fingers crossed. I think I got something there, but we'll see.
I you dumped it. You dumped your realization, responsibility for your self-realization that the project is finished on the audience.
Yeah. It,
But
by role playing as the audience.
right, and I set that up by saying You know, is this the reason for the director's cut? Because it's never really
Right, right,
done.
right.
It gives us an opportunity as creators. I get to do rewrites and
Yes.
edits on stories, and I revisit my thesaurus, and I just want to say something that's gonna make people go look the shit up, you know, but do it in such a beautiful way that it's the lady in the red dress walking in the room that's
Right,
all black and white,
right.
you know. So that kind of fun. Is it fun like that for you as well? Are there some intentional moments of design, the mind mapping part that you put?
There's a lot of things. It's so funny when you mix something like this. There's a lot of jokes that you realize weren't even there because of the way people laugh. Like, not that they're laughing at things that weren't supposed to be funny, but like
Mm,
they're finding humor just in a way you cut something or something. But there's a lot of stuff that it's so funny where you find that a lot of stuff that's funny to me is on such a subtext level that I guess doesn't come across to most or other people, or maybe they don't even know that I'm going for that. But for example, the fact that you have like this film that looks really the way it does, and it looks very pretty, especially the heaven stuff and whatever. Uh, but yet the dialogue is very simple and it's very crass, and not crass. It's very what's the word? Not primitive, but it's very normal. The dialogue's very like there's nothing heady, nothing very fancy wordplay, nothing. It's very direct and very strict. There's something about that I find funny because you have
mm,
all the pieces there to make something very heady and very esoteric, whatever. It's like being very like, honey, you have a meat cleaver in your head. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not like
okay.
sometimes in life we that's why even I never want to be have the thing where there's a lesson explained to Wendy, nor is there ever a moment where God says, I am God. I want it to be something that's like, where she goes, are you? And she goes, in the film, when he goes, all of a sudden, she goes, I'll spoil it for you. She fixes her, basically, gets the meat cleaver out. Spoiler. Who would have thought?
Mm,
Um, and she's freaked out at first, but it's like, she's like, you're okay. And she shows her with the mirror. She's like, why would you do that? And then she goes, because I knew you'd be okay. And she
mm,
goes, oh. And then she goes, how'd you do that? And then she goes, I suppose the manufacturer provides the most efficient repairs. And then
mm,
it kind of hits her. She's like, you aren't. Are you? And then she goes, am I? She goes, you are. And then she goes, I am. I didn't want any moment where she goes, you're God. It's way cooler. I think it's funnier to like keep it like not explicitly saying things, which is in contrast with the hell scene where everything is just said by the devil straight
right,
up. Because in
right.
my mind, I feel like God, or at least in this movie, or maybe in the universe, whatever, is all about gently guiding you to answers.
Mm,
Meanwhile, the devil's like, look, this is it, this is that, this is what it is.
mm.
While God, you have to be gently led to the answer. So I don't know why I brought that up. I think that was useful information to get across.
You know, that was very well explained. And now, in retrospect, because I am Satan and living with me is hell,
Yeah,
because I say it precisely the way I mean it. TI is what a TI is.
yeah.
That's all. All that other fantasy niceties and guiding people through and, being emphatic
The
or
hand holding.
empathetic. Fuck
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Here it is, private, raw,
Yeah.
uncut.
So that's why. So I want a film that had both. Like usually a
Hmm.
writer does one or the not really, but oftentimes it feels like, oh, they're this kind of person or that kind of person. They're either a softie or they're a hard ass. Like, which one are they? I want a
Hmm.
film that did both. Like, that's it. That's all like mysterious and whatever, and then all of a sudden like saying fuck this, fuck that, bullshit, like rapist, pedophile, blah 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 blah. And then at the same time, I know you just censored this for TikTok. Oops. But
Hmm.
at the same time, in heaven, like it's so lofty and sweet and understanding and patient.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think that's life.
Hmm.
There's that duality.
Hmm.
One thing I'll say even about, I just wanted, I thought if there's an appropriate like person to say this to or just information to get across, because no one's asked about like, God or the inspiration or the backstory on like that, like her and the way she is and stuff. And I thought you being a journalist, but also part of a publication that highlights musical artists and Black artists and other artists of like color and culture from cultural backgrounds.
We cover everything news from hip hop to Hollywood. It
Yeah,
does.
exactly. So
I,
so with
I covered Glenn Campbell before he.
yeah, so I was like, perfect. This is the
Yeah.
type of publication that really like the intersections of different aspects of humanity and how it translates to art. So anyway,
Thank you.
I had a professor at when I went to college named Frederica King. It's so funny. This I don't even know if I put this out. This person doesn't even know this about this movie. But this character, the way God is, was inspired by her actually, because she was very sweet, yet at the same time very stoic, and had this air about her of like wisdom. She was a very intelligent woman, legendary pianist and composer, like a music historian, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, and when I talked to her, oftentimes because of the fact I was like probably going to fail her class, she had this air about her, not in a condescending way, but in a way that gave off the impression of, or the air of you, me. I'm speaking to someone right now who knows more than I do. Like it's
Mhm.
just about just in general. This is a wise person.
Mhm.
But there's a certain fear that also gave off an intimidation a little bit, whatever. So anyway, I don't know. I want to make sure I got across in this discussion that because I had yet to mention that. But yeah, the way I even approach that character, like how do you write God, like or at least and try to be fresh about it at the same time in some ways. It's based on my professor in college.
Wow, that's beautiful. Did you give her name already?
Yeah, Frederica King. And again, she doesn't even know this, which is why it's so. And I don't even know if she'll remember me.
Okay, now we gotta have the name of the university. I'm being really
I went to Emerson College.
Emerson College, Dr. Professor Dr.
Yeah, Frederica
Frederica
King.
King.
Yeah.
You are a featured
And
character.
while she didn't have an afro, she had a wonderful head of hair, and she'd wear these like dresses, as if she was ready for a recital. So that kind of like look, I think,
Mm.
again, this wasn't until hindsight that I realized this. It was her. You know what I mean? It's her. So thank you, Professor King, for that.
Shout out to Professor King. You have helped to mold, shape, and ignite a dynamo. And I'm hard to reach. Um, first of all, your PR person is my friend. And I'm like, yo, I'm really screening interviews. Well, just if you could you just read the pitch and look at and I saw the Hozier clip and I'm going, yeah, I'm doing this. And I'm doing this one personally. You know, I you know, you're an amazing creator. And now that even though we just covered it on the surface, understand that we have life similes, you know, and just human similes in dealing with the mental health, the corralling the creativity at times, knowing when that last stroke on this particular piece is enough, and then wondering later as you come back and go, oh, yeah, maybe the comma should have been over here.
Oh, there's a million things I would do differently. There's so many things in this that I fucking hate about the film that bug the shit out of me, and I cringe when I see it. There's a million things I would do, and yeah, but that's why I gotta make another.
Hey, gotta make another. Hey, why not? Meat Cleaver Part Two. Meat Cleaver,
Yeah,
it's available now on YouTube. I
Crypt
don't have
TV.
on Crypt
It's called
TV.
YouTube. It's Crypt TV.
CRYPT
Yeah, CRYPT TV.
TV. Um, Amazing. I like I said, I'm going to go to Crypt TV and watch the full thing. I wish you much success through the film festival rounds,
Thank you.
and I would love for you to come back again and talk about that experience. And when it culminates and you've got more trophies than you can carry in two armloads, you know, um, we want to revisit the imposter syndrome again. We want to revisit that. Jared, is there anything that you wanted to cover that I may have neglected thus far?
Um, if I didn't make it explicitly clear, uh, while I've gone through these things and I experienced a lot of things still, while the story's not over, I guess if I was to die tomorrow, this could be a happy ending in the sense that I've turned what I thought were the worst things about like life and things, my limitations, into what I consider to be one of, if not the greatest things about me and what I do in the world. So, and I think, and it's complicated. It can be harder for some than others, but I think everyone has a chance to do that. It's on different levels, and life dynamics and logistical situations can prevent a whole myriad of things. But there is a way to we can grow, and that part of you that you're ashamed of can be the thing that makes people love you.
Mm.
And also, the other thing I want to make sure to say is I really appreciate you. I know this isn't, like you said, this isn't your typical kind of interview or piece. You saw a personal interest even in this conversation. I appreciate you, because I am so new to this. You calming my nerves, guiding the conversation. You're a wonderful conversationalist, and clearly, I didn't read a lot as a kid. You're clearly very well read and very eloquent. And I do hope we get to speak again because it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm learning stuff about myself and while learning stuff about you. So,
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity and the trust. I know it can be difficult and you have to be picky. And as you said, you're at the beginning of this phase and you want to navigate um, carefully. We've seen the horrors of things said in the past,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
you know, just
but with
crap that
my luck,
wasn't
there's
even
something.
intended like that.
Yeah, there's something in here. I'm sure that's gonna get me like a shot in the head in like 30 years. But hey, who cares at that point?
I'm gonna make this confession at the end. So we're using a AI note taker, and it evaluates the engagement, the value of the conversation.
Wow.
Yeah, it does, and it gives me a report at the end. And but it also um, grades me on things like inclusivity.
Get the fuck out.
No,
That's crazy. I
it
don't know about this. What is this?
it this is on Zoom. So part of the apps on here is called Read AI. So that's how I measure
Wow.
how I'm doing. And because I say he and she or they, and those are fucking definitives, okay, that I
Good.
grew up with
Yeah.
at 61 years old. And I'm not changing to suit somebody else's belief of how the English language is supposed to go. It's not personal, but it is personal because I don't want to change. Do
You've
what
made
you
that
want to do.
choice.
Yeah. And, I enjoy people. I don't care about the other stuff. All right. So it gives me those grades and it says you weren't inclusive enough. You used he too many times, or instead of the generic they, them.
Right. Right.
Hey, fuck you and feed you fish because I just enjoy the conversation. And
Hmm.
with that, I would say that the masterpiece is complete. The Hype Magazine live sessions, Jared Asher Harris. The new film is called Me Cleaver. It's available online on Crypt TV. This has been a conversation, the highest compliment that a journalist can get. And I really appreciate the opportunity and the trust. Until next time, my brother. We're
Thank you.